After having to do zero maintenance to my C5 Corvette, besides oil changes and tires, for practically years, and just purely driving and enjoying the car, it sat for a little while and didn't get driven that much. And then when I did go to drive it, it had some very strange issues, which luckily could all be attributed to a dead cell in my battery.
Bad, replace.
So I put a new battery in the car, and all was good. For 2 weeks. Until this. Okay, I can hear the fuel pump. I got 11.7 volts. Clutch is in. I'm in neutral. And what did it do? Nothing. Ooh, this is strange. This is gonna be fun. Sweet. When the C5 Corvette came out in 1997, it was a major step ahead from previous Vettes. It was all new, with 34% fewer parts than its predecessor. But with all this new technology comes lots of new reasons why my Vette is doing what it's doing. So I don't really know where to start with this one, because it's not like it's even attempting to start. It's almost as if it doesn't think that the clutch is in. It's just cutting all power. So maybe this, it doesn't seem like starter, because I feel like with the starter it would at least try to do something. So I'm gonna start with the basics, as I've learned. A lesson I've learned the hard way. Start with the basics and simple stuff first. So, even though my battery's new, do we have juice? Got plenty of power. We know from the last Vette video that the in-car voltmeter is accurate. And, well, I'm right here. Might as well just try again, because what if a ghost just fixed it all of a sudden? Nothing at all. That was wishful thinking anyways. Next up, fuses. Are any blown? We'll start in the fuse box located in the passenger side footwell under the floorboard first. All right. Number 14 is crank. And that's something to do with the clutch, like the clutch sensor telling that the clutch is in. When the clutch is down, the connection is closed or open. Closed. Connection would be closed, thus allowing the car to start. So I'm gonna pull that one out. I went and grabbed my handy dandy needle nose pliers, read the diagram once again. It's gonna be this 10 amp right here. I grabbed the worst possible pliers I could find, of course. And luckily grabbed the one pair I had that lacked the strength to pull a simple micro fuse out. Are you kidding me? After rearming myself, I'm able to pull fuse 14 and see how she looks. And unfortunately... Shoot. It looks okay. Damn. I put it back and went back to the diagram to see what to check next. Next, I checked Maxi Fuse 52 in the footwell fuse box, the fuse for the starter. And after expelling some strange noises, it came out. And guess what? This one looks fine to me too. What the hell? So I put it back. Now I know that just looking at the fuses doesn't always tell if they're good or not. But this is just me covering the first bases, the easy stuff, to get a better direction of where to look. So, let's keep digging. Why won't this freaking thing start? So, bummer. All the fuses are good, or all the ones that I checked anyways, are good. I do have a check engine light that came back after I cleared it the last video, but I'm 99% sure that it just has to do with, again, the fact that the car doesn't have any catalytic converters on it. Maybe. But my brother has my scan tool, so I'm going to show you guys how to scan and check the codes without a scan tool. The car will show you your codes. It's pretty cool. First, we turn the key to on, press reset on the DIC to clear any warning messages like our doors are open, then press and hold the options button, and while holding down options, press fuel 4 times. Do all of this within 10 seconds, and a message will appear on the IPC saying diagnostics. And if your Vette has codes, it'll start to automatically read them out. Better have your notepad ready. PCM is the powertrain control module. TCS is the traction control system. BCM is the body control module, IPC is the instrument panel cluster, radio is the, yes, radio, HVAC, of course, your heat and air, LDCM is left door control module, RDCM is your right, SCM is your seat control module, and lastly, RFA is remote function actuation. I don't know what that means. But none of those codes have anything to do with the starting issue. And out of sheer frustration, I pump the clutch to try and see if that little switch down there is surely sending a signal to let me start the car. But to no avail. Again, I'm not a professional mechanic by any stretch. I'm an idiot with a camera who talks to himself in his broken cars all day. And diagnosing issues is one of the many things I'm not good at. I keep coming up short on ideas, so I'm going to try the classic unplug it and plug it back in method. These things I'm doing seem so simple, but sometimes they actually just work. So I grabbed my wrenches, realized the bolt heads holding the cables on were stripped, of course, put my wrenches away, and got out the vice grips. Then pulled the negative terminal off and waited 15 minutes before putting the cable back on the battery and tightening it down. By doing this, we're resetting the ECU, but if you don't have the negative terminal off for long enough, residual power can remain in the circuits. Time to give it another go. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see. And astonishingly, nothing. Still nothing. Nothing, come on. I was starting to get a little frustrated, if you couldn't tell, and anxious, because that means our problems are a bit more serious than just some little ghost or glitch that I thought we had. But maybe, just maybe, that new battery we put in the vet a few weeks back just suddenly went dead. And maybe the voltmeter on the dash is just wrong? So I hook up the big charger to the vet and see what happens. Nothing. I even wiggle the key while it's on the crank position because I read on a forum that sometimes that can help. But nothing. All right, now I talked to Steve and he told me that I should jump the clutch switch, which is the switch that is told when the clutch pedal's down so that the car can actually start. I looked on some forums, that should be up like around the clutch pedal. Shocking, I know. So I'm gonna first try to find it, and then I'm gonna jump the switch and see if the car starts and go from there. Hopefully I can find it. This is always comfortable. So, grunting and groaning, I make a contortionist out of myself and begin my search. I think I found it. I did find it. I found it. And there it is. Got the clutch pedal here, dead pedal there, and it's right up there. That wasn't that bad to find. That's the switch we need to jump. So I locate my, I'd say that's a giant jumper wire, and attempt to remove the switch. And what an absolute pain in the pecker that was. But after 7 minutes of sniffing my clutch pedal and hand cramping, the connector's out. I use the giant jump wire to bridge the connection on the 2 pins, taking the clutch switch out of the equation. Then once again, try to start it. And once more, nothing. So I plug the switch back in, and the next day, decide we finally have to take a look underneath the vet. All right, so now it's time to put the vet in the air and look at the starter solenoid, check for power and all that, which leads us to the worst thing about owning the C5 vet, which is getting it up in the air when you have to work on it. It's so low, I have to push it up onto wooden planks, so it'd be just high enough to get a jack under each side, then go from side to side raising the car. The level? I think it's level. Biggest pain in the balls job goes to getting this thing in the air. It sucks. Now we can climb underneath and locate the starter. Okay, where is the starter? Get a bit of oil in the oil pan. I haven't been under here in, geez, Probably close to a year, but a little bit of mist has covered the pan. All right, I'm climbing into the vet. It's on the, oh God, that's where the starter is. Oh my gosh, I hope I don't have to change this thing. For reference, here's the header, and that's the starter. Way in there. Unsure of what to do now, I wiggled myself out from under the car, and neighbor Steve could smell my confusion and came over to take a peek. It's so tight up there by the starter, he's struggling to get the probe of the test light onto the solenoid on the starter. But eventually he finally was able to get the probe onto the solenoid, so I jumped in the car, pressed down the clutch, and turned the key to run to see if we're getting power. And we weren't. So we checked the fuses and relays in the engine bay fuse box, and they were all fine. All right, so yesterday Steve ran over checking through some things with me on the vet, and he also printed out this wiring schematic of the whole starting system on the vet. The only problem, I don't really understand how to read it. Again, thankfully, I have a neighbor like Steve, and we're now running through the schematic and checking that everything's okay and in working order from the ignition switch down to the starter.
Try cranking it.
Try cranking? Okay, ready?
Yeah.
But as we checked our way through the maze that is the wiring schematic, we were realizing that everything was in check.
So that fuse is good.
We were getting power from the key to the theft deterrent relay to the clutch switch, and even now, down to the starter. It's the starter. So as it turns out, when we checked the solenoid that was down on the starter, there was a little bit of just surface rust and like mist, oil overspray on it, just enough on it to keep us from getting a good reading. So after cleaning it up a little bit, wiping off some of that gunk, we put the probe back on there and we were able to get a good reading. And it turns out that we were getting power down to the starter. So the starter is getting power. So next video, I'll find a starter and we'll start to pull everything apart. This is gonna be a very, very sucky job, especially since I have headers and especially since I'll be doing it on the ground. But it's all part of the game. I'll see you guys in the next one. Happy motoring.